Hello there, 406 now, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up this very hour, we talk to Mike Davis from the Article 3 Project. He'll breathe some fire about the latest in the ongoing Trump legal sagas, especially Stormy Daniels. That's Stephanie Clifford in real life, and her testimony today. In New York, why was she even relevant to that case? Not even she really knows. We'll talk to Mike about that. Then Ben Weingarten is here at 5:30. We discuss Joe Biden's decision to pull away aid from Israel. No more aid to Israel, he says. They're crossing my red line. Apparently, he's got a red line, and it only applies to allies, not adversaries. You can join us, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Before we move on, let's talk to one of our favorites. Donna's in Frederick, line 1. Donna, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for calling me one of your favorites. That puts a smile on my face this Friday. I've been thinking a lot about Joe Biden and the big lie and how we're all suffering through it all. The left cannot put this genie back in the bottle, and I honestly feel like Joe Biden has been a narrative shield for Barack Obama and company and the left. So I'm inclined to believe that perhaps they may eventually, soon, trot out the 25th Amendment and remove him that way, because in all honesty, there's an avalanche coming their way, and I think some of them are starting to wake up and see it coming.
I think you're right. I think, with Biden, but first of all, Biden's chances of reelection are disappearing, even with shenanigans afoot. I mean, their best laid efforts are going to waste because, look, what, Donna, is the court process against Trump if not election meddling? That's quite obviously what they're up to. And what they apparently didn't anticipate, because of stupidity, I think, is that there was going to be an overwhelming reaction in Trump's favor as a result of all of this. And that's what all of the numbers have demonstrated. So that's a big deal. That's a really big deal heading into the election. And so you point out that the 25th Amendment, which could be used to basically say that the president's incapacitated, he's not able to do the job. Have you seen him on television? Have you seen the reports from the Justice Department that say his brain isn't functional enough to actually prosecute of any crime? He wouldn't be competent to stand trial, according to Robert Hur. Yes, I do think that's one possibility. I think it's probably less likely, though, than some sort of change right at the convention itself, where they decide to just decide to name someone else the nominee. They're so close to the election, they don't need the 25th Amendment, the guy. As you point out, other people just run the show behind the scenes. But they could replace him as a nominee if they think it's going to help get them power again in the general election. So we'll see. Remember, that convention's in Chicago. I had some theories at the time, and who knows what'll happen. My guess is that she doesn't really want to do it, but Michelle Obama's the hometown girl. It doesn't make any sense as a political matter to have the convention in Chicago. Because it's not a swing state. When they named Chicago as the place that they're holding the convention, the New York Times hilariously referred to it as a swing region of the country, as if by going to Chicago, they're somehow capturing the broader Midwest or something. But, that's fascinating. And I want to add on to one other thing about Obama, Donna, which is that all this campus chaos that we're seeing all across the country, where you have these commies who appear to be fairly well-funded and well-coordinated as they cause this chaos. There was this reporting in Tablet magazine this week, which was really a synthesis of all of the excellent reporting so many conservative news outlets have done about the network that is creating all of this. And that's the left-wing billionaires who are funding it, the George Soroses of the world. And one of the things that Tablet magazine piece pointed out that I think deserves a lot more attention is that on the board of these organizations that are financing all of this are Obama officials. They're Obama administration alums who are all over, say, the board of the Tides Foundation, which is responsible for throwing a lot of money at these organizations that are causing all of this anti-Semitic and anti-American and anti-Western civilization chaos across these campuses. You and I both know that if Obama were to pick up the phone and tell his alums, the guys who used to work for him and by extension, of course, worship him, if he were to pick up the phone and say, hey, knock it off, they would. They'd say, oh, yeah, we'll back right off of this. But that's not what he's doing. In fact, he's very well likely fomenting all of this, and that would be par for the course with his entire history when it came to places like Israel and his effort to empower Iran at all costs and deliver them huge pallets of cash. So when you point out that Biden is a shield for Obama here, I think that may be more true than any of us even know. Any of us even know. And to the extent that we detect Obama's fingerprints all over everything, the fact that we're seeing this craziness on these campuses that's being funded by and likely very directed by Obama officials all over the place, that really tells you a story that you're not going to hear most places.
Yeah. Fundamental transformation, as Barack Obama once told us. Yeah. I remember when we were scratching our heads when he made that speech, and I've never forgotten that, and I think we need to remember that going into this election, that's hopefully going to come around the corner. It's hard to tell what they're going to do, and that's the most alarming part of all of it.
Yeah, I guess. The other piece, though, as I just talked about with Emily, is like we're kind of seeing it all anyway. I mean, they're very brazen about some of the elements of this. I mean, the censorship of the big tech companies earlier this week. You already have, Mark Warner's already out there saying, yeah, that's what they're doing. The FBI's doing it again. Just so everybody knows, you should all be happy. We're not happy. We saw what that looked like last time. The FBI's decision to keep spying on Americans and doubling down on that, not happy about that. The efforts to try and take Trump and any of Biden's political opponents, to include RFK, who's having his brain eaten by worms, off the ballot all across the country, that's anti-democratic, small d democratic. That's opposed to allowing voters to make this decision. That's ballot rigging. And then, of course, the court process. I saw, who was it? It was Mark Thiessen who was on television who said the following. He said, look at what Trump's been hit with. Trump's been hit with over 90 charges all across the country by all these lefties, led by the Biden administration. They keep trying to imprison his top political opponent, the leading candidate for president of the United States. Charles Manson was only hit with 10? 10. 10 charges. No idea. But Trump, 90-something? Now, you do the math. And those 90 were delivered when? In the last year. The heat of the election. It's also absurd, and it's also totalitarian and tyrannical. And if you're not Donna at this point, you're missing out. You've got to have your eyes open. So Donna, thank you as always for the call. I really appreciate that.
My pleasure, Vince. It's their insurgency. We have to be the counterinsurgency.
Amen. All right, thank you, Donna. It is, it's wild. So today, to springboard off of Donna's excellent thoughts here, we've got the Stormy Daniels fiasco playing out in New York. Now, it's not playing out the way that the left was hoping. There's even over on CNN, they're like, this is bad. This is not working out all that great for Biden, because what really transpired was that in a bookkeeping trial, because remember, at the center of this, to the extent that any crimes are laid out, it's supposedly that Trump's money guys had improperly classified a payment that went through Michael Cohen, ultimately to a woman called Stephanie Clifford, Stormy Daniels, as legal expenses. That's the whole thing. It's a bookkeeping trial. And so what kind of expert witnesses would you bring into a bookkeeping trial? Well, obviously, porn stars. Video prostitutes. Yeah, that's right. The Democrats are bringing in a porn actress to sex up a bookkeeping trial, because if there's anything that they're good at, it's sexualizing books. Yes, that's right. So here we go. So you get Stormy Daniels over the course of 2 days. We took a break on Wednesday so everybody could get a breather. On Tuesday and Thursday, talking about, the sexual contact she had with Donald Trump. And she even said at one point that she, during this alleged consensual relationship, back in, she says in 2006, that she was shaken up by it. It was a lot for her to handle. She could barely think straight. She was getting the vapors, just even thinking about it. And today, President Trump's attorney drilled down on this idea. Really? It was too much for you? It was like you couldn't handle it? And President Trump's attorney is, who's got an interesting spelling to her last name, the attorney, Necheles, and Necheles. I've heard it described as necklace, so I'm going to go with that. Necheles, Trump's defense attorney, according to the Associated Press, highlighted Daniels' career in adult films to suggest that her story about being shocked and frightened by Trump's alleged sexual advances is not believable. Quote, "You've acted and had sex in over 200 porn movies, right?" asked Nicholas. "And there are naked men and women having sex, including yourself, in those movies?" Nicholas continued, "But according to you, seeing a man sitting on a bed in a T-shirt and boxers was so upsetting that you got lightheaded, the blood left your hands and feet, and you felt like you were going to faint." Daniels replied that the experience with Trump was different from porn for a number of reasons, including the fact that Trump was more than twice her age, larger than her, and that she was not expecting to find him undressed when she emerged from the bathroom. That was her claim. Now, you may be familiar with the fact that in 2018, there are 2 letters signed by Stormy Daniels herself, both of which declare that there was no such relationship, that this never happened. 2 of them. She signed both of them. She would later claim, after having signed those letters, that nothing like this had ever occurred, that she lied. Well, that's not good. It's that goes right to, that's a credibility issue, isn't it? So now you're claiming that you're a liar when you signed a letter in which you declared that none of this ever happened. So what's the jury to make of that? Also, Stormy Daniels talked about seeing ghosts today. There was some conversation about she has a new paranormal investigation show coming out called Spooky Babes. Did you know this? I didn't know that. I don't follow this lady's career that closely, but she's got it's something to do with like being able to communicate with the dead. That's the premise of the show. In one of the trial's odder moments, Stormy Daniels was pressed about her experience dealing with a ghost, which may have just been a marsupial. Asked by Nicholas about her claim that she lived in a New Orleans home that was haunted and the spirits attacked you, Daniels launched into an explanation of her possible encounter. Quote, "The house has had some very unexplained activity," she said. "We brought in experts, people to measure the electromagnetic fields, religious experts, scientists. A lot of the activity was completely debunked as a giant possum that was under the house." So they turned out it was a rodent problem. They wasted a lot of money on all of this. Presumably the non-disclosure money was spent on all of the paranormal investigators. She brought the Ghostbusters into her house in New Orleans. It was just a possum. It wasn't Slimer. It was just a possum. Just a possum. And then here's the big thing. I think this is probably one of the biggest takeaways today, but we'll ask Mike Davis about this coming up, see what he thinks. But Stormy today said she never, ever talked to Trump about any so-called hush money payment, ever. The 2 of them never had a conversation about something like this. Daniels testified she never spoke with Trump about a $130,000 hush money payment that she received from Cohen and had no knowledge of whether Trump was aware of or even involved in the transaction. Quote, "You have no personal knowledge about his involvement in that transaction or what he did or didn't do?" Trump lawyer Susan Nicholas asked. "Not directly, no," Daniels responded. Upon further questioning, Daniels noted that she didn't negotiate directly with Cohen either, but that her lawyer did. Keith Davidson is his name. Nicholas used, it sounds like legal expenses, by the way. There's a lot of lawyers in between her getting money and Donald Trump. Nicholas used the questions in the final moments of her cross-examination to underscore that Daniels had no knowledge of any of the allegations underlying Trump's charges in the case, that he falsified his company's records to hide the true nature of reimbursement payments to Cohen. Daniels said that she knew the charges involved business records, but when asked if she knew anything about Trump's business records, she said, "I know nothing about his business records. No. Why would I?" Seems important that she said those words today because guess what that does? It establishes that she's irrelevant. She's a gratuitous, scandalous, prejudicial witness designed to convince the jury to think poorly of Trump for something that has nothing to do with the underlying allegations. Nothing whatsoever. Instead, she comes in and the left is using her to try and sex up the entire thing, turn it into a sex scandal, when in fact the whole premise of the law in question is it's a bookkeeping violation. You violated the book, and the bookkeepers themselves earlier this week, they were on the stand and they said, it's literally a drop-down menu. We had to choose from a limited selection of items, and the one we chose was legal expenses because the money went to Michael Cohen. What do you want us to do? That's the way it works. And so Alvin Bragg and company are saying, it's a crime, it's a crime. Not even the Fed said that. Not even the FEC said that. It's not a crime. But Alvin Bragg wants to say it now that he's got one of Joe Biden's top Justice Department officials there working on the case. Trump's not allowed to mention that because he's gagged on the issue. But there you go. Stormy Daniels today. I know nothing about his business records. No, why would I? Well, guess what happened right after that? The Trump team is once again now seeking a mistrial, saying that woman should have never been involved in this. She should have never been testifying. Certainly not making sexual allegations in front of that jury. We'll let you know what the judge says. Right. All right, let's go to the phones. Line 1, Laura in Haymarket. Laura, you're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hi, Vince. I needed help understanding this. So Stormy Daniels, everybody that's banking on her, the way you just said it. So let me get this straight. She called an exorcist before calling pest control.
Yes, she didn't. So normally, right, you would triage this the other way. Right, if you hear scratching in the house in the floorboards, you're like, I probably should get an exterminator. I just got to get somebody out here, look for the rodent. It's not what she did. She went straight to the supernatural, and usually you save that for the end. That's when you're like, you have nothing else. You're like, time to bring in the exorcist, Laura.
I can totally understand why we're focusing on her testimony.
Yes. She's the star witness, the porn star witness, actually. Thank you, Laura. That's an excellent point. So loony. She went to the exorcists first. Mike Davis joins us next. We'll find out what he thinks of her amazing testimony, whether he was quite as entertained as we were. He's got a lot of thoughts on this subject. And my understanding is what's happening right now in court is Donald Trump would very much like to talk about that witness's testimony. Can he do it? The judge trying to keep him from that. That's all ahead. Good afternoon to you. It is 4:35 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we are making sense of the news. Coming up, Ben Weingarten joins us from Real Clear Investigations. We're going to talk to him about Joe Biden's decision to abandon Israel just as they're about to defeat Hamas. What timing? You can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. We are still keeping our eye on all of the developments at that courthouse in New York City and whether or not President Trump does step up to a microphone soon. When he does, we'll bring you some of that audio. The breaking development from that courtroom is that, remember, I was telling you about Stormy Daniels and her disastrous testimony for the left this week, and it obviously working very much in Trump's favor. Trump's team has been seeking on multiple occasions now a mistrial. Additionally, they sought just a few moments ago to modify the gag order that had been imposed on the president and his team, saying that they feel like all of this testimony this week, and especially that it's been also public, they need to respond to it. For the president's entitled to respond to allegations made about him, including on the witness stand. The judge in this case just denied the Trump team's request to modify the gag order. Here to join us to talk about that breaking news and so much more is Mike Davis, now founder and president of the Article 3 Project. He joins us on the phone. Mike, good to have you back, sir.
Thank you for having me.
So it's amazing. So Stormy Daniels can try and, take some body blows against Trump all week in the course of multiple days of testimony, but Trump's not allowed to even say her name now.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing that this Democrats Manhattan judge, Juan Merchan, who donated to Biden in 2020 and another anti-Trump cause, and whose adult daughter, Lauren Merchan, is raising millions of dollars off this unprecedented trial over which her father is presiding, requiring his recusal under New York statute, is gagging a criminal defendant. This is clearly unconstitutional. It's clearly illegal. This judge is threatening to put Trump in jail if he mentions Lauren Merchan, or if he mentions that Matthew Colangelo deployed from the Biden Justice Department, a senior Biden political appointee, the number 3 in the Justice Department, and a former DNC political consultant and a former Obama White House and Justice Department official who's now in Soros-funded Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg's office to lead this bogus case against Trump, everyone sees that it's bogus. Trump can't mention his name, or Judge Merchan is threatening to put him in jail. Michael Cohen, Stormy Daniels, their star witnesses. Michael Cohen is a convicted perjurer and disbarred attorney who is making money on TikTok trashing Trump. Stormy Daniels, a porn star, is peddling her porn sites on Twitter while she's trashing Trump. Trump can't respond to either of those bimbos. And number 5, Trump can't even mention that the Manhattan jury pool voted 87% for Joe Biden. Judge Merchan has threatened to put Trump in jail for that. This is clearly illegal. It's a vague, overbroad, illegal, unconstitutional gag order.
It's insane.
That this judge and prosecutor, Soros prosecutor Bragg and Biden prosecutor Colangelo, have put on Trump. Frankly, it is a criminal conspiracy under federal civil rights laws, 18 U.S.C. 241, conspiracy against rights. They are illegally taking away President Trump's First Amendment rights.
It's insane. And he's not threatening anybody. That's the language that they keep dressing this up in. Oh, he's imperiling the lives of all of these people. How? By defending himself? This is turning the entire justice system and specifically the Constitution on its head. And let me add to the list of people you just put out that are all compromised in this. There's another prosecutor on this team called Susan Hoffinger who donated to Joe Biden's 2020 presidential campaign as well and was one of the prosecutors leading the Stormy Daniels questioning this week. So this is a hit squad of Democrats who are Biden donors and former Biden employees, for that matter. And we're all supposed to act like this is the normal administration of justice.
And what's so bad about this jury pool is already 87% for Joe Biden. And this Judge Merchan, again, whose daughter's fundraising off this thing and who donated to Biden, and Matthew Colangelo, this Biden prosecutor, and this Soros prosecutor, Alvin Bragg, they rigged the jury selection process. They struck potential jurors who follow Trump on social media, but they didn't strike potential jurors who follow Biden. So they found like the 3 people in Manhattan who actually follow Trump on social media and then got.
Yeah. Did I lose you? You still there?
I'm here.
Okay, good. But yeah, the jury questionnaire asked them, do they have Truth Social? What kind of jury questionnaire would ask you if you have Truth Social, unless you were aiming to try and exclude anybody who might support Trump?
Yeah, there's no look. This is obviously a rigged process. They can't even tell President Trump what their legal theory is. Now 4 weeks into the criminal trial, they don't know what the legal theory is, right?
Yeah.
And so how the hell can President Trump defend himself legally if he doesn't know what the legal allegations are against him? How can he defend himself against these witnesses like Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels who are trashing him? Look, they're the ones who should be subject to a gag order. The whole point of a gag order is to protect the criminal defendant, to make sure that he gets a fair trial. It's a limited time, place, and manner restriction on First Amendment rights to protect the constitutional rights of a criminal defendant. They've turned this on its head. This started under Roger Stone. They gagged Roger Stone, and these Democrat prosecutors and judges are clearly violating these criminal defendants' First, Sixth, and 14th Amendment rights by gagging them like this. Look, if Trump were truly threatening the judge or the staff or the prosecutor or the witnesses, charge him with obstruction of justice, charge him with witness tampering. But you don't put this overly broad and vague prior restraint on his First Amendment rights, especially a criminal defendant who's running for the president of the United States.
So we are still awaiting Trump's remarks, expected shortly. When Trump steps up to a microphone, do you think he should violate the gag order today? Do you think he should just talk about what he heard in that courtroom from Stormy Daniels and why it's so utterly corrupt?
Selfishly, I would love for President Trump to get up there and say, Judge Merchan, go F yourself and your daughter, Laura Merchan, and Matthew Colangelo and Michael Cohen, Stormy Daniels, and this Biden jury pool that you picked. I'm not the one who would go sit in the jail, but if these goofballs in New York actually put President Trump in jail, they're going to turn him into Nelson Mandela. He will win by a landslide on November 5th. He'll win by like 4 points, maybe more.
So let's talk about the Stormy testimony. So she does 2 days of testimony in this trial this week, Tuesday and Thursday, today. And over the course of it, she details a bunch of allegations about what she claims was a consensual sexual relationship that she had with Trump. A one-night stand is what she was alleging. And asked today whether she has any knowledge whatsoever about the underlying criminal allegations. Do you know anything about Trump's business records? She said the following, quote, "I know nothing about his business records. No, why would I?" In other words, why is she even a witness to this trial, Mike Davis?
That's the point. It's not relevant at all. But not only is her testimony not relevant under 401 of the Rules of Evidence, it is unfairly prejudicial under Rule 403. Even this partisan hack Biden donor judge realized that Stormy Daniels and Matthew Colangelo went too far when they went into excruciating detail about this alleged encounter that frankly never happens. I mean, and think about what she said. She blacked out during this thing and doesn't remember everything. It kind of reminds me of Christine Blasey Ford. Remember, she doesn't know how she got there. She doesn't know how she got home. She doesn't remember anything, but she knows that she only had one beer and it was Brett Kavanaugh. These women are lying through.
Yeah, well, the one of Trump's attorneys today was almost mocking Stormy Daniels. Like, really? You've done over 200 pornographic films, and you almost fainted when you say you saw Donald Trump in his boxers? Like, what is she even talking about?
I mean, Donald Trump probably liked that testimony. I mean, but it's absolutely ridiculous. Look, even if Trump did what she alleged that he did, there's still no crime. It is not a crime for a businessman to settle a nuisance claim and have your bookkeeper and your lawyers book it in your accounts as a legal expense. I've been a lawyer for almost 20 years. I've represented clients for a long time. That's how you settle these nuisance claims. Yeah. They are legal expenses. And to take a 2006 incident, allegedly, and then a settlement claim in 2016 and put it in the books in 2017 and saying that bookkeeping in 2017 somehow affected the election in 2016. This is an absurd case on its face. And look, this is what these Democrats need to remember. This is Donald Trump. He's been in the public eye for like 50 years. People know we're not canonizing St. Donald of Manhattan when we elect him on November 5th, 2024. So if you think you're going to smear him, look, if this were Mike Pence, this trial would be devastating, right? It would destroy his credibility among conservatives. We're dealing with Donald Trump. People don't care. They expect this kind of stuff.
Let me make sure I understand. There was a date that you mentioned I just wanted to get my head around. They claim that the bookkeeping occurred in 2017. That was the year?
Yes. This was put in the books in 2017.
Okay, so
somehow that accounting in 2017 affected the election in 2016, and it was somehow a campaign finance violation.
That's insane.
But they're not quite sure that's their legal.
And also, even if the dates were irrelevant, we went through the Access Hollywood scandal. Like, that was like, why would this be a huge deal compared to? I mean, the whole thing is so stupid, honestly, and it's just it's purely tyrannical what we're seeing playing out in this court right now. The judge, you keep mentioning how corrupt this guy is and what a Democrat he is and how he's big Biden. He's a Biden donor and all these things. The judge I think they're in the process of hearing whether or not a mistrial can be declared as a result of all of this insane Stormy Daniels testimony. My guess is that the judges are going to deny him again right now. But in your view, this trial should be thrown out, I would assume.
Yeah, but remember, this judge clearly does not care if this case is reversed on appeal. This judge's sole goal, Alvin Bragg's sole goal, Matthew Colangelo's sole goal is to label Trump a felon before November 5th, 2024. And they think that is going to change the outcome of the election. What they may not understand is this case is going to backfire on the Democrats. If they label Trump a felon, especially if they try to put him in jail, they're going to guarantee that Trump is back in the White House after November 5th, 2024. This is going to backfire spectacularly, like I have been predicting with you for the last 22 months since the Mar-a-Lago raid, when all this Democrat lawfare and election interference started.
Okay, let me real quickly ask you about a couple of other big legal developments this week. One of them is Judge Eileen Cannon in that document dispute case led by the Biden administration against Trump. She's indefinitely suspended the trial for now because there's too many pretrial motions to get to, including over the fact that Special Counsel Jack Smith may have been unlawfully appointed. That's one of the things that they're taking a look at here. In your view, it sounds like this is a major win for Trump.
Yeah, this is huge, and I'll tell you this. Judge Eileen Cannon is doing what she's supposed to do, which is to protect the criminal defendant's constitutional rights. There is now evidence that Biden, through his deputy White House counsel, Jonathan Sue, worked with the National Archives and the Biden Justice Department, Jay Bratt and Gary Stern, to concoct this Mar-a-Lago raid, to orchestrate this raid, to go get presidential records that Trump was allowed to have under the Presidential Records Act, and to do it under the pretense of the Espionage Act, which does not apply to presidents having their presidential records in the office of former president, which is funded by Congress. That's why Congress gives them federally funded staff with security clearances and Secret Service protection 24/7, 365. This is a political hit. And then you also have evidence before Judge Cannon now that not only did they do a political hit to go get these documents, that once they got the documents, they tampered with the evidence to put out a picture that did not represent the evidence as they found it, right? To put out that shocking photo with all the cover sheets for the classified documents, that was cooked up by the Biden Justice Department, by Jay Bratz in the Biden Justice Department. And this is the same Jay Bratz who allegedly threatened Stanley Woodward, who is Trump co-defendant Walt Nada's co-defendant Walt Nada's attorney.
Yeah.
Essentially, Jay Bratt threatened Stanley Woodward and said, "You're not going to get this D.C. judgeship you're applying for unless Walt Nada cooperates and turns against Trump." This Jay Bratt is a thug, and he needs to be chased out of the Biden Justice Department. He needs to be hauled before Congress. If these allegations are true, his ass needs to be in prison.
Mike Davis, can I beg you for a couple extra minutes of your time? Do you have a moment to stay with me?
I do. I have until 5:58.
Oh, make 4:58, I think is what you mean to say, right?
4:58.
Okay, good. Well, that's exactly the time we have. Stay with us. I want to take you on the other side of this break because there's more I need to ask you about. You met with Congress. I have to know what happened there. Hold up. Mike Davis, thanks for staying with us. You met with members of Congress this past week to talk about all of this legal chaos the country's being subjected to. What did you tell them?
Well, I met with the Conservative Opportunity Society, which is comprised of some of the most bold and fearless House Republicans. And my message to them was we need to get the House Judiciary Committee, including that weaponization subcommittee, to step up and do their jobs, because we are experiencing republic-ending lawfare by President Biden, Merrick Garland, Jack Smith, Jay Bratt, Jonathan Sue, Matthew Colangelo, Alvin Bragg, Tish James, Fani Willis. It never ends. It's on so many different fronts. The Arizona Attorney General, who just brought a criminal indictment and named Trump as an unindicted co-conspirator. And the reason this lawfare is happening is because these Democrats have been walking through an open door, and I'm tired of it. Jim Jordan, the Weaponization Committee, they must step up and end this republic-ending lawfare. And they need to hold hearings. They need to have staff depositions. They need to issue subpoena after subpoena after subpoena for documents, for witnesses. They need to cut off funding. This is a zero-sum game. When these Biden Democrats are on offense, they're not on defense. And when they're on defense, they're not on offense. Let's get them on defense.
And do you think that they'll take you seriously? Will they be more aggressive than they are now?
Yeah, I mean, you're starting to see Jim Jordan wake up a little bit. So maybe someone's lighting a fire under his ass, and it could be these Conservative Opportunity Society members.
Well, from your lips to God's ears. Thank you, Mike Davis. Good to talk to you at the Article 3 Project. Thanks for always staying on top of this and fighting for the country.
Thank you.
Good. That's Mike Davis. Always enjoy getting his take on all of this. It's just amazing. It's just amazing. Let's see here. All right. Hey, coming up, I've got a lot more information for you about Joe Biden's effort to yank away aid to Israel. He's perfectly fine sending our adversaries all sorts of goodies, money, financing, funding. You know, Iran, they can fund an entire terror regime on the back of Joe Biden's decision-making. But Israel, fighting back against that? How dare they? How dare they? Israel has found Biden's one and only red line, which is trying to defeat terrorists. Can't do that. Can't do that. We've got the update on that for you. Ben Weingarten joins us in the next hour. A lot more ahead on the Vince Coglianese Show.